Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and this time a bit of discussion about some new information for Wilds. I know there's been a lot of that in the last few days, but this one's more of an external thing than say the new footage or trailers or any of that we've been getting. There was this really interesting interview with what I believe is a Chinese media outlet called IGU, with the big names like Ryozo himself, Fujioka, and Takuda. And naturally, the interview was not conducted in English, but we have our helpful Google Translate alongside community members who did translate specific parts of the post. In this interview, though, we learned about some pretty major stuff. The big topic of optimization was talked about, because yeah, there's large community concerns about that, but also big details like the possibility of no elder dragons in Wilds, or at least potentially. That was alongside a lot of other interesting topics, so let's just cover all of it as we go. The first question discusses the plot of the game, its size, and effort involved. They answered in a comparison-focused way. For players who played old games like Monster Hunter Wilds before, we hope to make a volume and game experience that is not inferior to players in comparison. We are currently developing it intensely with that goal in mind. We are confident that the volume of this plot will satisfy everyone. So essentially, we can expect the story to be comparable to World in terms of length, if not bigger than that. And they're very confident that it's going to satisfy in that regard. I always found the story of Monster Hunter to be a bit A to B straightforward, but the length of it was always good, never too short, never overly long either. They know what they're doing, and we are seeing in regards to the story, arkveld, new monster type, potentially not an elder dragon, there is something different about this one, and so yeah, I'm hopeful. The next question is in regards to the demo we played though. The interviewer must have played the same mission that I did, which was a short story mission with cinematics and a horde encounter. We weren't allowed to record that at the time, but since then, GameSpot has come out with their own gameplay of exactly that mission. The interviewer highlighted how during that mission, there was a special section where they're being chased by a horde of balahara. We're having to evade them and hold them off with the slinger. Will there be a similar gameplay section to that throughout the story? That's the main question here. They answered that the same chase and escape plot will not be used again, but there will be many special gameplay sections similar to that kind throughout the game. So to give you guys context, in that mission you're trying to save a child that's running away on a seikret while you're on the back of your own without your weapon. And this is happening while a horde of balahara is swimming fast through the desert trying to catch both of you. So it's a pretty cool sequence, but this footage doesn't show the gameplay of shooting the terrain or balaharas directly trying to hold them off, mostly with your slinger. The mission itself is mostly on a track though. You just follow it, use your toolset given at the time to manage to get to the destination safely. I imagine, as they basically said, we'll get lots of cool sequences of that nature, just done in different ways, involving different people, locations, challenges, and of course monsters. But it is cool to see as kind of a speculation moment. But these kind of things are cool for spectacle and aren't overly invasive on normal gameplay. Next up, we had an interesting question to do with the weather systems. If you don't know, we have 3 periods in each locale: the fallow, inclemency, and plenty. With both the windward plains and the scarlet forest, it's during the time of inclemency that the weather system of the locale really kicks in. For the Scarlet Forest, we've now seen that as the downpour. We have high waters that can be turned into dangerous, damaging waves by monsters like duna. While the sand tide in the plains, it's Ray Dow and his tie to the whole lightning strikes of the storm that go hand in hand. But in terms of time expected for these things, it's apparently going to be quite different to what we've seen in the demos. The interviewer asked if these occur randomly over time or at set times, like every 10 minutes. And here's the answer they gave. When playing the game, players will know the time when the weather changes in advance. However, compared to this trial, the mechanic in the official version will be different. The time will also change according to the situation in the game, so based on this experience, the weather can be regarded as changing in real time. Essentially, it's going to be a lot more subtle than what we've seen in the demos, it would seem. However, we should be able to predict the change based on current in-game conditions before it even tells us in-game, hey, you're in a time of plenty or whatever. Like I said, what we've seen in these demos is that the weather change is very sudden, so it does seem like they're going to make it more subtle and change in real time compared to that. The next one I'll be quicker on though. The interviewer asked about portable camps being destructible and if we should expect that to happen a lot. The answer was essentially it's down to you. They put it into 3 categories. One is the absolutely safe from monsters kind of place, you can't go wrong. Another is one that's going to be safe if monsters aren't intentionally drawn there by players. But the third one is that you can indeed place tents in areas that it's going to be dangerous to do so. Places that the monsters are going to naturally pass through, like going between areas. It's going to be a bad idea to place them there if you don't want them to get crushed. So working these things out before you do place a tent definitely seems wise. Next up, we had a great question to do with weapon setups. Since your gear will logically be optimized for, say, your main weapon of play, suddenly swapping from like greatsword to dual blades, that equipment, the decorations, the skills you're using, it's going to be relevant for your greatsword but terrible for your dual blades, and so it is going to be an issue in theory. So the interviewer was asking if there's a plan to address that. It was explained that attack-related skills are now found directly on weapons, so when you swap weapons, it'll automatically swap the attack skills, of course. But then they go on to say, additionally, you can adjust your skill combination with accessories to make it so when you're switching weapons, the equipment will adjust to the other weapon type as well. So that sounds like some kind of loadout system that swaps what gear you're using based on what weapon you're swapping to. How that will truly work we'll have to see, but that at least sounds promising. Next, another good question to do with the new NPC SOS mechanic was brought up. That's where you can summon in 3 allied NPCs to help on the current hunt. The interviewer was concerned that this would scale the monster's health and such compared to just playing in solo. And what would happen, say, if the NPC allies can't? It was confirmed that the difficulty will indeed scale to multiplayer level when that happens, yet when the NPC hunters can't, it will not consume your limited amount of cards. It's only when you yourself can't will that be consumed. So that's pretty big, as that's very forgiving. I do think using these SOS flares then will reduce the pressure of you on those hunts because more aggro, right? But also the fact that they're gonna cart and it's not gonna stop you from continuing the hunt at any point. It definitely feels like a way to make a current hunt easier, and that's a nice option to have. Moving on, we have another good topic to talk about. The interviewer stated that there surely won't be just 2 maps in the full game from what we've seen so far. They directly asked, can you tell us the number of maps planned for the full game? It was answered in a much better way than, no, we're not telling you that. Here's what they said. We hope to leave a surprise for the players on this topic. We will continue to release more information in the future. We hope to maintain the rhythm of information release we've had so far. Because monsters must survive in that environment, if the ecology is not rich enough, that monster species cannot be too rich. For this part, we also have a design concept we want to stick to, so please look forward to how we reflect the richness of the ecology in this work. To me then, this suggests that not all monsters can survive in all the locales, right? We have seen how doshaguma can show up in the Scarlet Forest, but we haven't seen monsters like quematrice show up there, which makes sense, because it's a fire-related monster. It wouldn't want to be in a heavy rain forest. So the locale design, the weather, it seems to play a big role in what you'll find there and how the maps connect, as we've learned in that recent new gameplay. Obviously, we won't just have 2 maps for Wilds, but how many is still a big question. To me, 4 would feel about right, with maybe a 5th introduced later or something like that. That's what I guess. Amazingly, this next question suggests there might be no elder dragons in Wilds, but I don't think that's a bad thing, at least not for the initial launch. Don't take this as fact though, let me explain. The interviewer asked directly, will there be elder dragons in Wilds? And to answer that, it was stated that in World, a lot of elder dragons were involved. But this time, their focus is not elder dragons, but themes of nature and human influence on that nature. They want to show how both bountiful that can be, but also harsh as that concept can be. They will not reveal more now, but they said elder dragons are not essential for the game's theme. That doesn't mean there won't be any, but it does sound like the concept of apex predators and what we currently know about arkveld might take us in a new direction power scaling wise, and to me that sounds fresh and exciting, even if we do get some elder dragons in the end or the later updates. I love the idea of breaking the usual flow and storytelling pattern that we've seen before, so this has me excited. Maybe we will get elder dragons, but maybe we don't need them. Moving forward though, a couple quick topics. They brought up underwater combat, since, it's in the underwater swimming section. It was again confirmed that there is no underwater combat in Wilds at this time, and through the development process, it was not a goal of theirs. But, from my own speculation on that topic, with that mechanic being in-game in a way, you never know in the future. Maybe with how much it's been talked about, they might consider it for the Master Rank expansion, although that could just be copium. Next though, we do have a big and important topic, and there's a few questions about the performance, both for PlayStation and PC too. The footage we're seeing here is of the Scarlet Forest, and this was taken on a PlayStation 5 as it turns out. A lot of people are worried about PC optimization in particular though. In this interview, it was said that they're still discussing the full details of performance mode for PlayStation, and that what we've seen doesn't represent the final version's quality. When the final version is actually ready, they will give us those details, so we're going to have to wait. However, in a follow-up question, the interviewer asked what frame rate do you hope to achieve in that final version? Like, what's the goal? They said again, they need more time to actually finalize these parameters. They highlighted the concept of how, many people have different PCs with different configs, so it's really hard to say hard numbers. After all, a supercomputer with insane specs is going to be able to run higher frame rates, of course, than a low-end rig. But to quote them, they said, "We need more time to finally determine the specific parameters." So while I know some people aren't going to like that answer exactly because it doesn't say, oh yeah, we're going to get it working amazing even on super low-end PCs like we would want, it's still a fair and measured response. It tells you that they're very aware about these concerns about performance and how they're clearly working on it as a kind of top priority. All we can do is hope they get it optimized as best as possible, for most people. On that note, the interviewer did ask about PlayStation 5 Pro, since that's going to be more of a capable piece of hardware than the normal version. They said that they're actually fully focused on the regular version of the PlayStation, not the Pro right now. They will need to conduct tests to see, how much improvement the Pro will have, but since it's only recently been announced, they definitely don't have a clear answer. But I think that's great to hear. It means you aren't expected to have a Pro to run Wilds well, and they're not developing it in that way at all. In the future, having a Pro will probably result in better results, obviously, just like the PC situation, but they're focused on the right target, which is the regular PlayStation 5, and having that work well. I don't know about you guys, but my main concern is just running the game well on my PC at 60 FPS or higher. And if they manage that, I'm happy. But yeah, that's the interview and some of the bigger topics to think about from that. I hope this outside information was interesting and useful. Let us know what you think. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.